This is a Hezbollah video which the group released after the assassination of its leader Hassan Nasrallah in late September. A show of strength after a devastating blow. Ballistic missiles hidden underground, heavily armed fighters in tunnels, a powerful yet highly stylized message. As is the case in any war, propaganda is being used by both sides. Hezbollah has been criticised for not providing enough information and being in denial of the losses it has suffered through Israeli attacks in Lebanon, something the group's spokesperson refutes.
We know the cost is high and the price is steep. We're not in denial, as you claim, but we know the patience and prayers in the hearts of our people.
The Israeli army released this video, it says, shows Israeli soldiers going into villages in southern Lebanon. Again, a strong message. But restrictions on the media by Israel means getting a clear picture of what's happening on the battlefield in southern Lebanon is nearly impossible.
Hezbollah and Israel, during their wars of narratives, are using the same tools, have the same purposes, and use the same media methods to be the hero of the story.
As journalists, we have to time when we come to strike sites like this on the outskirts of Doha to report. That's not only because of the forced evacuation orders issued by the Israeli military and the risk, it's also because we try and minimize the time here to avoid harassment. There is deep distrust of the media. For most journalists, trying to report inside Doha at the level of destruction is very difficult because of the restrictions imposed by Hezbollah.
Hezbollah does offer tours to media teams, but they are highly controlled, and many journalists complain about the lack of information Hezbollah shares. The group stopped officially announcing the number of deaths of its fighters after an attack involving exploding pagers on September the 17th that targeted many Hezbollah members and some top commanders.
Hezbollah is using the media as a tool that is technically as important as the military tools. Hezbollah has used the media at the beginning to tell the other party what they can achieve, to hurt the Israeli home front, and to scare the Israeli people. Hezbollah use social media and TV in many ways.
Both sides accuse each other of lies and distorting the facts. One thing that is easier to confirm inside Lebanon are the hundreds of thousands of people who have had their homes and businesses destroyed, and the number of people killed and injured, including hundreds of women and children, that is continuing to grow. Stratford, Al Jazeera, Beirut.
Let's get more with Marc Owen Jones. He's Associate Professor of Media Analytics at Northwestern University Qatar. He joins us now from Doha. Thank you for your time, Marc. Is there evidence that Israel and Hezbollah are providing false information to the media?
I mean, false information, propaganda, it depends exactly how you want to distinguish these two things. But of course, I mean, certainly Hezbollah will be not wanting to reveal the extent or the impact of Israel's attacks on Lebanon, because this would be demoralizing. And we know that Israel's strategy is also to exaggerate their successes. Their aim is to basically attack not just Hezbollah, but to put pressure on Hezbollah by decimating infrastructure in order that people turn against Hezbollah. So you have these two situations where Hezbollah do not want the extent of Israel's damage to be seen by everyone. At the same time, you want to have Israel wanting to maximize and emphasize the amount of damage caused in Lebanon in order to put pressure on Hezbollah. So this will obviously lead to a war of narratives, one in which you will see these dueling forms of propaganda.
And how are they able to do this, given how easy it is these days to post information on social media incredibly quickly? How do they have this sort of control?
Well, I mean, it's firstly, it depends who we're talking about. Social media enables people to post content and have that content spread. But at the same time, it's very easy to cast doubt on what people write on social media. Just because someone sees something on social media, it doesn't necessarily mean they will believe it. Often what we believe is conditioned by what we want to believe or what we already believe. This is called confirmation bias. At the same time, depending on the context, people might be afraid to post on social media because if they do, there will be fear of consequences. They might film, for example, a bomb site, and they might there might be consequences. They might be threatened or told to delete it because someone, whether it's Hezbollah or the IDF, don't want them to show that. And we know, for example, the IDF have been targeting journalists for months now. And so we know that journalists themselves, or whether they're using their social media or more sophisticated equipment, know that they might be killed simply for reportage. And the same applies to civilians, right? We know that media are the witnesses and the witnesses to these atrocities happening in the Levant. And whether you're a civilian or a journalist, the consequences for posting might be death.
So is there evidence of physical intimidation by Hezbollah on local journalists in Lebanon?
I'm not aware of any physical intimidation of local journalists. It doesn't mean that it's not occurring. But at the same time, people might also not want to be indulging the Israeli strategy of trying to, again, promote discord within Lebanon. So it's not quite clear exactly whose interest these would be involved in. But I'm not aware of any evidence. It doesn't mean that it's not happening.
And Marc, what you're saying there is that both sides are doing this to give an illusion of strength. What are the downsides, though, of putting out sort of a false narrative?
I mean, to me, it's, you're undermining the nature of trust, right? These two parties, Israel and Hezbollah, have different objectives. Hezbollah is engaged in existential quest for survival. The fact is, why putting out false information is simply going to undermine the public trust in it as an institution, which has already been eroded, right? I think people underestimate the importance of that felicity to truth in these kind of conflicts, right? If you're seen to be a dishonest broker, then people won't necessarily think you are a legitimate actor, right? And also, it just makes it hard to know what's going on. And if that's the case, it means people aren't making decisions that necessarily will be in their best interest, because they are making decisions and choices about what's going on based on information that might not be accurate. So it's really deceiving the people at large and the population, not giving them the full facts, the full picture that they are entitled to, and by doing so, undermining the kind of integrity of those institutions.
OK, Marc, thank you for your time. Marc Owen Jones, Associate Professor of Media Analytics at the Northwestern University Qatar.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.